My uncle left me a large plot of land, and my greedy family wants to use it for a trip to Europe. Now, they are all shaking in anger when they receive their hilarious inheritance. I live a very different life than the majority of my family. I didn't graduate high school but got a GED and started working as a welder and hunting guide. The rest of my family is pretty successful. For instance, my father is a lawyer and my mom used to be an RN. Brothers own companies. Sister got married to a lawyer, etc. I'm glad my family found a lot of success, but they can be very shallow and often put me down for what I do for work. My mom would comment, "When are you going to school to get a real job?" or stuff like that. They didn't want to pay for welding school, so I worked at an auto shop to pay my way through. They often go on vacations and cruises without me because I won't be able to appreciate the culture or food and other BS. I love them, but I have been slowly pulling away from them over the last few years since I can tell that we live different lives and they have no interest in sharing their lives with me. Now, my grandfather's brother Mike and I have always been pretty close. Mike and I used to go hunting when I was pretty young, and even though Mike was also working in law, he and I shared a love of the outdoors and nature. About a year ago, Mike was diagnosed with cancer and has quickly gone downhill in the last few months. I have taken a lot of time off of work to care for him since he is my oldest relative, and no one else wants to take care of a frail, sick old man for some callous reason. His wife died 15 years ago and he doesn't have any children. He recently asked me if taking care of him was hurting me financially, and I told him that I was cutting back on hours at work, but I loved him more than any of my other family members, so it was my pleasure to take care of him. The next time I went to visit him, he revealed to me that he was having his will changed and would be willing to his hunting cabin. It's not a cabin, it's a small single-family home with power and running water, on 70+ acres, to me, along with about $100,000 too. Get it fixed up and start your life. He wants the rest of his estate to be liquefied and donated to different causes that he is passionate about. Mike is actively dying now. He asked to be taken out of hospice so he could die at home with his dog. In his own home, my family was talking about how much money Mike has, and how when he dies, they want to convert his hunting cabin into a summer vacation home, and how they were going to fund a big memorial trip to Europe on his dime since we are his last remaining family. They expect the majority of his wealth to be broken up between us all. They do not know that everything is being donated, and I am getting the house and some of his money. I know that when they find out about what Mike has so graciously done for me, they will rip me down and curse his name. I don't want to be around for the fallout. I plan to set aside some money for renovating the house for full-time use and start a small welding company someday. So, Wibta, should I cut them out of my life as soon as Mike is gone? Seeing this new greedy side of them has soured me a lot, and I don't know if I can even stand being around them anymore. Even though I know that Mike always said that your family should be everything to you. Update. Mike passed away shortly after my last post. He died peacefully in his sleep. His last waking hours were spent with me, Maisie, and the nurse who was caring for him. He is buried next to his late wife. He lived a good life. Some of his last words to me were, "We had a pretty good run, didn't we?" The will issue was hilarious to me and was a great pain reliever. Mike is always looking after me, even after his death, because watching the bombs fall in real time was like chicken soup to my grieving soul. Yes, Mike did leave the cabin and money to me. He also left me his guns, his dog and her stuff, his fishing poles/tackle, and a few moments from over the years. He changed the will 3 years ago and simply never told me or anyone else in the family. He left various trinkets for other members of our family that were pretty on the nose. For instance, he left my father, who spent a long time complaining about the contractors working on the house, a bag of old hand tools. My sister got a box of wine glasses. One of my brothers got a drawer full of pens and pencils for your blossoming legal career. He also gave all of us some money for a round of beer in his honor. Watching everyone go from fake sadness to excitement, to horror and disgust was quite the trip. My mom kicked the pot of flowers outside the office so hard she tipped it over. My father just stared out the window in silence for a really long time. My oldest brother held it together until we made it home and then started screaming and swearing about getting a fucking box of pencils as a thank you for being part of his life. I have been moved from the disappointment son list to the poop list. As some of you noted, they weren't exactly angry about the cabin and the money Mike left me, but more so about his larger assets being liquidated and donated. That drove them completely insane. The main target of their abuse was the primary organization that Mike willed the rest of his estate to, and other than an initial small explosion and some snide comments, they seemed to take it in stride. I haven't spoken to them much ever since Mike's passing and the will issue. There are still issues and such that need to be worked out, and I was told that could last up to a year. The cabin has been locked up. I set up some cameras and a gate alarm. I am moving in slowly, hopping between here and my apartment until my lease is up. It's definitely dated and I'm currently working through renovations and repairs. Because my phone number is tied to my work, I didn't want to change it. I just opted to block everyone except my mother in case something really bad happened. After a few days of her complaining and questioning why Mike left me something so nice, she quieted down. Last week she began calling and texting me again, telling me it was an emergency. I spoke on the phone with her, and lo and behold, it was not an emergency. They want me to donate the cabin and land to my sister since she's thinking about starting a family and wants to raise her future children holistically. I told my mom that my sister and her husband have a double income and a lovely house in a completely different state than me, and if they wanted to move out to the country they were completely able to do so, but I would not be giving them my land. She then suggested they buy it from me for $200,000, which is far less than it is worth. I said no. I got everything from I'm a selfish bastard to if I don't support my sister's dreams of raising her kids in the countryside, I'm dead to her, to Mike would want me to give the cabin and land over, to see if we ever do anything for you ever again. You entitled a-hole. I feel like it should have been harder to hear those things, but it just feels like they're trying to get me to give up what my great uncle willed to me, and it made me angry rather than sad. My sister also got on the phone to cry and say it was her and her husband's dream to raise their kids, specifically on Mike's land. I felt bad saying no to her then, but in hindsight, she's never mentioned it before, so maybe this is a new development. Since then, they've been contacting me by email, social media, and the like, hounding me to let my sister have/buy the cabin and land. I should have gone completely no contact. I've deleted my socials, and since I've moved job locations, they don't know where I am currently working. They do, however, know where my house is. Sometime while I was at work, my mom and sister drove over and knocked on the doors, tried to open the side door, and looked in the windows. On my doorbell camera, my mother very clearly tells my sister not to touch anything, so he can't sue. I am thinking of putting up a locking gate. Right now it latches, but does not lock. Everyone is now blocked, and I am putting together a list of people that would need to be notified of a phone number change since I want to change my number. I don't know how to keep them from walking onto my property. About 2 weeks ago when I came back to my apartment, my parents were both waiting for me to confront me about how devastated my sister is that her future children won't have the experience of growing up in the country. I'm kind of afraid that they might camp out at the property until I give in. I put up no trespassing signs and I hope that's enough. I know one of my brothers drove by a while back because he snapped me a picture of the road my house is on. Other than that, I am well, Maisie is well, and Mike is laughing from the grave. I'll stick around a little longer here, and then I'll be logging out of this account permanently.